A very good noon to all of you. I am Nikita and I welcome you to this session, How to Score 99 Percentile in VARC in CAT 2023. Right, so I will talk to you about VARC section today. Right, so I hope I'm visible, audible, everything is fine. Give me a hi, hello. Hi, Sonali. All right, that means we can begin. All right. So, we learn a lot of things today, right? A lot of things are on the agenda. So what to prepare for, how to prepare for in VRC, right? How to time your preparation according to, let's say, when the exam is going to be. So all of these things, some sources to prepare from, I'll talk to you about. Okay. All right. Hi, Angela. Hello, Kritika. Good noon. Good noon. So I think whenever we start with our preparation, the first thing that we should be absolutely clear about is what the syllabus of that particular section is or of that particular area is, if not the section. Right? Because I'm sure that a lot of you will not write just CAT but other exams as well. So when I say VARC, verbal ability and reading comprehension, I should know what all it comprises, isn't it? So I think by now, a lot of you know that, of course, when I say RC, that means reading comprehension passages, which is a major chunk, two-thirds of your VARC in CAT, right? Then when I say VA, right? So VA in CAT is a little vast because it comprises areas such as para summary, para jumbles, para completion, right? It comprises such areas. So basically paragraph based questions, right? Wherein you have to comprehend those paragraphs and then accordingly attempt the question. So if it asks you to summarize the paragraph, that is what you have to do. If it asks you to plug in a missing sentence, this is what you have to do. If it asks you to rearrange the paragraph, that is what you have to do. But this is not, this is not the complete scope of verbal logic. Verbal logic goes beyond this, right? So you will see that in a lot of your OMETs, other management entrance tests, there are other types of questions also that come under this category of verbal logic. For instance, questions such as course of action, where a problem is given to you and you are asked, what is the logical course of action given this situation, given this problem? As a manager of this company, what would your course of action be? Right? Such questions. So, all these miscellaneous short questions which test your reasoning, which test your reasoning ability, they also come under verbal logic. And one very important component that comes under it is what we call critical reasoning. Critical reasoning, a lot of direct questions from it are asked in your OMETs. And even in CAT, your reading comprehension passages, the questions that come from these passages. So, for the last couple of years, we have been having 4-question RCs. Every RC has 4 questions. And if you pick up the last year's passages, you will realize that in some passages, 2 out of 4 such questions, they come from this area, wherein they ask you to think about something in the sense, what can you infer from so and so sentence? Okay, which of the following would strengthen the author's argument in the passage or in para 2 in a particular paragraph? Which of the following would undermine or weaken the argument of the author in para 3? So these types of questions are called critical reasoning, and this is something that you should prepare for even if you have to excel just at RC passages, even if you're preparing just for CAT. So your syllabus, so to say, is pretty comprehensive, right? You have to prepare not just for reading and solving, you also have to become a thinker, right? You have to be able to reason, right? It's only then that you will be able to comprehend paragraphs, you will be able to strengthen or weaken paragraphs that are given to you. Then a lot of students think that vocabulary and grammar, since direct questions from them are no longer asked in CAT, so they need not prepare for it. Again, you probably will write other tests also, not just CAT, and there both these areas are tested on. So you can't ignore vocabulary and grammar. That's one thing. Secondly, again pick up your previous year papers and you will realize that in your RC passages, you will find some words that you think are difficult. Why are they difficult for you? Because they are vocabulary words that you may not have prepared for. So vocabulary will help you in better comprehension. Grammar will specially help you in rearranging paragraphs in parajumbles. So do not think that you need not study these two areas just because direct questions from these are not being asked in CAT. Okay, so even if I talk about your CAT VARC, of course, RC passages and this verbal ability, which comprises para jumbles, para completion, and para summary, of course, this is what your main syllabus is. However, vocabulary and grammar still remain important. You can't ignore them. They will help you to become better at these areas. Okay, all right. We have to answer. We always have to answer based on the passage kritika. Okay, so in some critical reasoning questions, for example, students have this confusion. It's a very common confusion. If in a question, the author's, let's say in the passage, the author's argument is given to you that uh, all of us should recycle our waste. All of us should have recycling plants at home, right? Should have mini recycling plants at home so that we can recycle the waste. Okay, now the question says which of the following, if true, would strengthen the author's argument? You are asked to strengthen the author's argument, right? And four options are given to you. Okay, so you tell me, how can you strengthen this argument of the author and how can you make a case for it that yes, we should have mini recycling plants at home to recycle waste? Tell me, make a case for it that yes, we should have mini recycling plants. So, if I somehow give some advantages of having these mini recycling plants at home, right? That actually support having one at each home to recycle waste, then I would have strengthened this argument, isn't it? So if I show that, okay, the investment in it is also low, these are low cost, okay, they minimize the transportation and the consequent emissions, transportation of waste and the consequent emissions, okay, and thus are environment friendly, right? And they are more efficient. So if I state these, okay, if I state any of these, that will actually make a case for having mini recycling plants at home, right? Now, it is possible that let's say this is not given in the passage. Okay, so I make this argument that this will minimize the transportation of the transportation involved in carrying waste to recycling plants and the consequent emissions, which is definitely a benefit for the environment. Let's say this is not given in the passage. That is okay. When you strengthen, weaken arguments, then your options, what your options say, may not be given in the passage. It is okay. In strengthening, weakening arguments, you are allowed to bring additional points. But in other types of questions, where you have to interpret something from the passage, where you have to infer something from the passage, there you have to stick to the passage. There you can't bring additional points. So it's in these question types, strengthen, weaken, okay, that we can bring additional points here. We can bring additional points because we have to support something that is stated. So how are we going to support it? By bringing additional points. Or how are we going to attack it? By bringing additional points. Right? So here we are allowed, but in inference questions, when we have to conclude something, infer something, that has to happen strictly on the basis of the passage. Right? So it depends on the type of question. So I hope this is clear to you. Hope this makes sense. Okay, I just read your messages. Good for environment and for human beings. Right, right, right. Correct, correct. Sonali, just read your message. Good afternoon, Arman, Sumant. Okay, now let's go to Let's go to this another concern that we have. Okay, what is the pattern, right? Has the pattern been the same for over a number of years? Let's talk about that a bit. So you know by now, I think you're very well versed with the pattern. You know that 16 questions out of 24 in VARC that were asked in CAT 2022 and even in 2021, they were from RC passages. So that's two-thirds of your VARC section. Four passages of four questions each, right? Usually, the pattern was this, that okay, two of them were easy to moderate, one was moderate, one was difficult. That was the pattern last year. That was the difficulty level last year. That's what I should say, right? Two easy to moderate, one moderate, and one difficult. RC passage. Then when it comes to VA, three questions from type in the answer para-jumbles, meaning no options to you. No options given here. And that's why no negative marking also. That's why there is no negative marking just for these three questions. Otherwise, you have a +3, -1 for all the other question types. Right? Para completion, a question type that was asked last year. Before this, we used to have another question type, odd sentence out para jumbles. Odd sentence out para jumbles. Here, 5 sentences are given to you. 4 of them belong to a paragraph. 1 of them does not belong. You just have to find that one. That is odd sentence out para jumble. Last year, instead of this, we had para completion, right? So all these paragraph based questions, they form verbal ability, and 8 questions, the remaining 8 questions out of 24 are from this area, right? Kritika, so disadvantages of talking about disadvantages of plastic would not justify having a mini recycling plant at your own home, right? That was my primary argument. My argument was not that we should recycle waste or we should recycle plastic. That was not my argument, right? Prabuddha, that depends on whether you want to do an MBA or not, right? So the level of VRC is definitely a little higher when I compare it to a bank exam. So the kind of preparation that is required is more rigorous in VRC. So if you aim for an MBA and if you're up for devoting that kind of time, then yes, definitely. Sectional time limit is 40 minutes. So, you know, my advice to you would be that you should devote 40 minutes to reading every day. Let's say 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. Because in the exam, you will have to sit at a stretch for 40 minutes and read. All of this involves a lot of reading and solving, right? So, you should develop that stamina. If not in one pocket, in two pockets. 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the at night, right? The marking scheme +3 -1, as I've told you, except for these three questions. So knowing your framework, knowing your syllabus is very essential before we start talking about scoring a 99 percentile. Okay, all right. Now let's talk about the score versus percentile, right? So Nali, don't worry, we have one of the most comprehensive courses, right? If you look at the industry, right, our VARC course is one of the most comprehensive that you'll find. In fact, I think I can even say it is the most comprehensive. So we have the maximum number of grammar and vocabulary sessions, a lot of RC sessions. We devote 4 classes to critical reasoning. So it's just that they are spread over time, right? That's why you may feel that, let's say in a week, you may have just 1 or 2 VRC classes or just one in some weeks. So you may get this feeling because of that, right? Okay. So VRC score versus percentile. Now there's something very interesting happening here. See, the pattern has been changing over the years, right? So earlier you used to have 34 questions in VRC. It used to be a 3-hour paper in total. 34 questions you had to attempt in 60 minutes, right? So that's why 102 marks. These are marks, okay? So 102 marks, 34 into 3. And if I look at a 99 percentile, right? For a moment, let's look at 99, not 99.5. Then at 75 out of 102 in CAT 2018, you had a 99. See, this came down to 62 in CAT 2019, right? 18 से 19 में it came down. Then 2020, COVID struck, and finally the duration of the entire paper was reduced to 2 hours. VRC was given 40 minutes and 26 questions came this year. 26. For the last 2 years, we've been having 24 questions, right? So 78 marks this year, and out of that 42. So look at this, it went down drastically in 2020. 42 out of 78 were required for a 99. In 2021, 45 out of 72. So it went up. The numerator increased, even though the denominator decreased, right? So probably students adjusted to the new pattern well, right? And therefore they fared well in 2021. In 22, this came down. Now, there can be multiple reasons behind this. One could be that the level of passages was relatively high, so students chose to be selective. Whenever the level of passages goes high, students become selective, right? So, if you ask me, yes, that was the case in 2022. The level of the passages was slightly higher. We saw some passages that were taken from, research journals, that were taken from academic pieces, right? So such passages are relatively more difficult to comprehend. Okay, so I think this does not really give us a correct picture because the denominators are different. So let's look at it in percentage terms. कितना percent marks चाहिए मुझे to get a 99 percentile? I am sure all of you who are sitting here know that percentile is different from percentage, right? Percentage सबको पता है, सबको मार्क्स उसी में मिलते हैं स्कूल में. परसेंटाइल मीन्स मैं कितने लोगों से आगे हूं. सो getting a 99 percentile does not mean I've got a 99%, does not mean मेरे 99% marks हैं. It just means that I am ahead of 99% people who've taken CAT. So I want to be in the top 1% of people. I don't care about my score. I want to be in the top 1% of people. That's what we are discussing today. तो उसके लिए कितना मार्क्स चाहिए? Let's have a look in percentage terms. देखो, CAT 2018 में VARC में अगर आपके 73.5% मार्क्स थे तो जाके आपके 99 परसेंटाइल आते. ठीक है? Now see, over the years what has happened. CAT 2022 में, let's compare 21 and 22, very comparable papers, very similar papers. CAT 2022 में 53.4% मार्क्स पर ही मेरे 99 परसेंटाइल मार्क्स आ गए. 72 में से मुझे कितना स्कोर करना है? 38.5. That's pretty much just a little more than half. Right? So first of all, having these notions कि मुझे तो 23 questions 24 में से तो correct करने ही पड़ेंगे for a 99 percentile, that notion itself is flawed. Right? So have realistic goals. Know what is it that you're aiming for. You are aiming for a 50 to 60% score. Right? Let's aim for a little higher. You are aiming for about a 50 to 60% score in your VARC section for a 99 percentile. Okay, how many questions does that translate to? Let's have a look at this. So divide this by 3, right? I am talking about 13 net correct questions here. 38.5 marks अगर मैं बोल रही हूँ. Let's go back to the previous slide. 38.5 marks मतलब 13 net correct. Because there's negative marking also, no? So that's why I'm saying net correct. So, however, of course, nobody has 100% accuracy, right? I mean, in some years, some people may have a 100% accuracy. I'm not denying that, but usually people have a less than 100% accuracy, right? So let's say you have an 80% accuracy. तो आप 17 to 18 questions attempt करके आओ, right? So if you attempt, let's say, 18 questions correct, you attempt 18 questions, right? And you get how many correct out of these? You get 14 correct out of these. So that's 42. Then subtract 4 out of this. So you reach a 38, right? That's what I'm talking about. 18 questions with an 80% accuracy. This is what we are aiming at. Given that the difficulty level of the paper is going to be similar to CAT 2022. अगर difficulty level ही vary कर गया तो score ऊपर नीचे जाएगा, right? So considering last year's paper, I'm talking about a 13 net correct or about getting 18 questions correct or about attempting 18 questions with an 80% accuracy. This is what I'm talking about. ठीक है, Sonali, does that make sense? So 18 out of 24 का meaning है that you still have a luxury to not attempt, let's say, 6 questions, okay, or to, let's say, attempt three theta para jumbles and not be worried about how many of them you get correct because there's no negative marking, right? So you have to figure out a strategy also for yourself. A lot of students don't know the framework, don't know how much marks are required, and therefore don't strategize well. So this is to eliminate those errors on your part, right? So what should be my focus? My focus for CAT 23 should be on reading and not just reading. So a lot of students limit themselves to reading because that's the first step. We ask them to read a lot. So they just keep on reading, reading. They never solve RC passages. How is that going to work? In the exam, you don't just have to read. You have to solve RC passages also. So my, I have a very simple funda for this. I feel that for 4 RC passages that you have to attempt in the exam, you should have solved about 400 RC passages outside the exam, outside the actual CAT exam. So that this is just 1%. On the day of the exam, you just have to solve 1% of what you've already solved, right? Roughly speaking, you have 200 days left. Roughly speaking, 200 days हैं आपके पास. So even if you attempt on an average 2 RCs per day, you're sorted. 2 RCs per day. Now, of course, in the beginning, let's say you may attempt 1 RC per day because you may be more focused on your accuracy. क्या mistakes हो रही हैं, कितना accuracy आ रहा है. Then, gradually you may increase your speed. Then gradually you may start taking mocks with a higher frequency. Gradually you may start taking more topic tests. So, of course, this is just an average, right? I'm not saying that this is something that will happen right from day one. Maybe from day one you solve just 1 RC per day, which is also fine, right? But gradually हमें इतना करना है कि हम in total 400 RC passages solve करके जाएं before exam, right? In difficulty level, the score, if the difficulty level increases, the score usually comes down. The score comes down. Marks come down, right? The marks come down because in a difficult paper, students tend to be more selective. They are more focused on accuracy, right? Okay. The circle was not visible 2022 का. अच्छा ये रहा yellow circle. All right. 53.4% marks were required in VARC to score a 99 percentile. So I hope this is I've set this goal for you that you have to solve at least 400 RC passages outside the exam, right? Before you take CAT. Now the question arises, ठीक है, अब reading solving ये तो हमें पता ही है, right? This is something that we know, right? So but what exactly, where should I start from? That's a common question that I get from students. Start कहाँ से करें? So your starting point again, see, everything should be defined by what is asked in your exam when you're preparing for an exam, right? So let's look at the genres of CAT 22 RC passages. What all genres the passages came from, and you'll realize how diverse they have been. Look at them. So we had everything from culture to religion, philosophy, history, anthropology, science, technology, sociology. So CAT doesn't really care which stream you are from, what has been your academic background. It will ask you diverse genres. You have to prepare for diverse genres. You can't come and tell me, oh, history is so boring, I can't read it. There are so many subjects in your school and college that are boring, but you still study them, right? Because you have to pass the exam. So think of it like that. And gradually, when you start reading something, initially, sometimes things may appear boring. Gradually, when you deepen your interest, when you deepen your engagement, things become interesting, right? So read diverse genres. Okay. TISNET English is definitely easier. Accordingly, the marks that you require in it are higher, right? Over the years, the trend in TISNET English has also been that its difficulty level is increasing. Still, when compared to CAT, quite easier. But yes, Kritika is absolutely correct. In TISNET, your GA section, General Awareness section, is the make or break section. That decides whether you get a call or you don't get a call, right? All right. So these are the genres. You have to read diverse genres. You can take a note of them, right? And if you see something, topics like culture, history, and sociology, anthropology. These come under what we call, this is a broad field, humanities and social sciences. So lately what I have observed is that there has been this trend in CAT to ask quite a few passages from humanities and social sciences genre, right? So your SST जो हम पढ़ते थे स्कूल में, social studies, all the subjects of that and a lot more comes under humanities and social sciences. So get used to reading such articles. If let's say you're from a science background and you've not read such articles at all, or you're from a commerce background and you've never cared about history or sociology, get used to reading such articles. Now a genuine question, kahan se padhe? Okay, so what should I read? Just articles, are they enough? From where should I read? Let's address that. So the broad genres, as I told you, these are the broad genres that you should cover. And in this, I've covered quite a few things. It looks like these are just three genres. If you notice carefully, these are the three streams, the major streams that are available in schools: business and commerce, business and economics, science and technology, and humanities and social sciences, right? So you have to not become masters of all these genres, but you have to become familiar with all these three genres, right? So again, from where to read should also be governed by CAT में क्या आया था. See, so if I look at your previous 5-6 year papers, I see articles, okay, RCs that have their source in articles, and these are global magazine articles, global magazines. So magazines like Forbes, The Economist, right? Time magazine, The Atlantic. Last year, an article came from The Atlantic. So, such magazines that are international, that are global. Book excerpts have also appeared, right? Articles taken from non-fiction books, oh, sorry, excerpts taken from non-fiction books. They have also appeared as RC passages. International newspaper editorials, right? So, again, see the word international here. So, newspapers such as The Guardian, the NYT, the Guardian, the NYT, such newspapers. And last year, as I said, I saw that some of your RC passages were taken from research or academic journals. Research or academic journals, right? Okay. Yes, definitely, definitely, Samson. So this is what I'm coming to. So these are some popular sources that you should definitely go for. So Eon is I think it's one word that all of you have heard, right? So all CAT aspirants are aware of this e-magazine Eon. One of the reasons why we encourage reading articles from this is it has quite a few genres, right? So you'll find genres such as work, labor, right? You'll find it has its own sub page called psyche.co, where you'll find some interesting articles on psychology, some very interesting philosophy articles here, right? So Eon is free. Eon has long articles, right? Which is what we want you to read. We want you to build a reading stamina, right? So this this is just one example of the e-magazines, right? Smithsonian Mag is a magazine that will give you some very interesting science articles, history articles, and interdisciplinary articles. Articles that are a mix of science and history. Again, pick up your previous year papers. You'll see sometimes it's very difficult now to classify whether this is an economics article or this is a sociology article. Why? Because both the genres are present in it. It's interdisciplinary in nature. It's difficult to classify whether this is a history article or if it is a science article, because it's interdisciplinary. So read such interdisciplinary articles. You will find them here. Eon May, Smithsonian Mag May, The Atlantic, The Economist, Forbes, right? BBC.com. You'll find them here. And Eon is free, Smithsonian is free, BBC is free. So you don't have this excuse that some of these sources are not free. Jitne free sources हैं, exploit them to the maximum. The ones that are not free, whatever you get free, read that. Okay, NYT and Guardian are newspapers, and definitely you should read non-fiction books. Okay, all right. So, coming to what is it now? you've now realized what is it that you need to read. I'll give you examples of non-fiction and fiction books also that you can read. I have two slides for that, so don't worry. But let's come to the how to read part of it. What to read now you know, but the how to read is extremely important, right? Learning with legacy, man. Learn with legacy. Okay. So I cannot really predict this. It'll depend completely on how this year's paper has been in terms of difficulty. So please watch the analysis of CMAT that Saral sir took. There he gave you these details. Okay. So that should clarify it. Okay. So our focus should be on building these skills. When you read, when you sit to read, let's say in the morning, you sit to read for 20 minutes. uh, do not read with breaks. So it should not happen that you're reading and suddenly you start looking at your mobile and then you get lost. So there shouldn't be breaks, right? Read at a stretch. Do not read at a leisurely pace कि बहुत आराम आराम से पढ़ रहे हैं चलता है एक ही we are reading one thing twice or thrice. No, all these things inhibit our reading speed. You have to learn to read relatively speedily. See, I'm not saying that you have to become you have to compete in some sort of a marathon of reading speed. No, in fact you get 500 word RCs in CAT. That means even if you finish this in 2 minutes, that's a reading speed of 250 words per minute. Most of you must already have this speed. College going students already have this speed. So it's not really a contest or marathon of speed. However, you can't afford to reread stuff. You can't afford to take breaks, wander. You can't afford this that your mind wanders off. Okay? So build this reading stamina, right? Sitting at a stretch and reading without breaks. Comprehension, understanding what you read. Now, initially, it may so happen that if you read something extremely difficult, let's say you picked up philosophy and that's just not your genre, right? So, it may so happen that when you read in one go, you don't understand it at all. In that case, because at this stage you are also building your comprehension, in that case, only when something is so difficult for you that you didn't understand anything, only in that case you are allowed to reread and understand it. Reread and understand as much as you can. And once you are done with that piece, you can Google the terms that you didn't understand. So only in this case are you allowed to reread. Otherwise, for those things that let's say I've not been a sociology student, but I read articles on sociology. So there I don't expect to reread stuff. I don't allow myself to reread stuff. Okay? This rereading is called regression. There is a term for it. This is called regression. Lastly, are you able to remember what you've read? A lot of students ask me this that I read things but then I forget. Immediately after reading I forget what I've read. That poses a problem when you solve questions, because if you don't remember in which paragraph the answer to question 2 lies, then you can't go back and reread the entire passage, right? So you have to build this also. For this, after reading an article, try to recall as many key points as you can. Try to recall. Okay, on the first day, maybe you'll be able to recall just 2 out of the 5 points that were there. On the second day, so when you keep on doing this, you improve. Gradually, you are able to recall all the points. And after a while, what happens is you're even able to recall in what order these points were listed in the passage. This is where we have to reach. Okay, so this is how you have to read. You have to read with this purpose that you have to build a stamina for reading. There shouldn't be any distractions. You have to understand what you're reading. You don't need 100% comprehension, so to say. If that is there, excellent. But even if you grasp the gist, even if you get a 70 to 80% comprehension in the first go, that's fine. Okay. And you should be able to remember some of what you've read, right, in the beginning. This is what we are aiming at. These are the things in the preparation stage that will fetch you a 99 percentile. Okay. So getting to a 99 percentile means a consistent effort every single day. So right now, today is 6th, right? So we are in May, today is 6th, and let's say CAT is going to happen in November, right? The last Saturday or Sunday of November, right? So roughly, as I said, you have 200 days, if I'm not wrong. Just quickly calculate it for me, right? Roughly 200 days you have. So My suggestion would be just divide them into blocks. So let's say these 3 months you focus on skill building, as I told you, and you also start executing. So for instance, one RC every day in the first week, then two RCs every day, then taking some topic tests. So you also start to execute. Okay, some RCs every day and topic tests. Topic tests mean a sectional, this can be an RC test, this can be a VA test, and this can also be a sectional test, entire sections test. Okay, so this is what you start to do. Then when you reach August, September, October, November, I'm sure you will be taking some mocks also in this duration, right? So on the basis of those mocks, you will realize, okay, where you stand, where does your strategy stand? Are you able to execute what you plan before the exam? Okay, is is doing RCs first that working better for you, or is doing VA first that working better for you? So those sorts of decisions, right? You have to make. What kind of time should you devote to both? Right. So this is the stage where you take some mocks and realize where you stand. And then this is the stage where you evolve a strategy for yourself. Okay. You advance in your preparation. You identify question types that you're weak at in these 3 months. Okay. Inference, sometimes I face a problem. Main idea, let's say this is a challenging question for me. So I need to work on these, right? So that in August, September, October, November, you hone this. You work specifically on your weaknesses, right? And you learn to exploit your strengths in the exam by a good strategy, using a good strategy. Are you getting what I'm saying? Yes. Any queries, please ask. So your preparation has to be very focused, defined by the framework, defined by the skills that you're trying to build, defined by the time that you have, right? And if you devote disproportionate amount of time, let's say just to reading and not to solving, that's not going to help, right? If you devote time just to solving without analyzing, you're not analyzing your mistakes, even that is not going to help. Okay, so it's a joint thing that results in a synergy ultimately. Reading, solving, analyzing, okay, learning new words. So uh, as I said, this is something that you can do. This works for me. That's why I'm suggesting it to you. Start your day with reading. Let's say 20 minutes of reading in the morning, 20 minutes of reading at night. Okay. You can even increase this duration. This is the minimum that I'm giving you. Then take out 15 to 20 minutes during the day for vocabulary. This could be your commute time in case you commute, right? So you could go for a vocabulary book, right? In case that approach works for you. You could go for a word list. Okay, so a book, a word list, or let's say some other methods, finding words from newspapers. Some students do that, finding words from difficult magazines, finding words from magazine articles that they found difficult. जो भी approach आपके लिए work करती है, take out 15 to 20 minutes for vocabulary such that you learn about 10 to 15 new words every day, right? So vocabulary book, all of you know, I recommend Word Power Made Easy, right? There's another one called 30 Days to a More Powerful Vocabulary in case you've done word power. Word list, there is a GRE 800, Barron's 800 word list, Barron's 800. So these will prepare you not just for CAT, they'll prepare you for OMETs also, right? Confused among all these types of questions in RC. So Sonali, weakening and strengthening we will cover in critical reasoning, right? Most likely, whenever I say that, what is the author most likely to agree with? That means you have to understand what is the author's perspective in the passage, author का क्या opinion है, and you have to say something that supports it. Okay. When I say what is the author most likely to disagree with, again, you have to understand the author's opinion and you have to say something that will dilute it, that will weaken it, right? That will go against it. That is the most likely question, right? And except, this is a simple question type. When I say all of the following can be inferred except, that means I am simply asking you which of the following cannot be inferred. Uska ulta le lo. If I say all of the following can be inferred except, All of the following can be inferred from the passage except. So that means I am asking you which of the following cannot be inferred, from the passage. So use your verbal reasoning, use your logical reasoning here, that will help you. Okay. Now for grammar also, because when I showed you the syllabus, I showed you that okay, grammar is also a part of it. So what can you do for grammar? Um, of course, there are, in case you are enrolled with us, you get a grammar bonus book, right? A grammar bonus manual, you may have that. Now, otherwise, you have this book, Renan Martin. You can go for any basic grammar book. This is just one that I like. That's why I'm suggesting it to you. Otherwise, there's Raymond Murphy. That is also one that you can go for. So go through this book. It seems like a big task, but trust me. So the book that I have has 288 pages. So I thought from your perspective that the exam is in November and I'm asking them to read a grammar book. How much time will they really need to devote? I realized that even if you read 5 pages every day, you'll be done with the book in 2 months. Okay. So by July 6th, you will be done with it, right? With ample time left for your other areas. So just 5 pages every day. That's it. So go through this book. What if the question has none and except? So that's a double negative, Sonali. So when I say none of the following can be inferred except. So now I am saying which of the following can be inferred. Okay. So if I write none of the following can be inferred. None of the following can be inferred except. This is just a roundabout way of asking you that which of the following can be inferred. ये डबल नेगेटिव हो गया ना, ये भी नेगेटिव है, ये भी नेगेटिव है, उसका मतलब हम आपसे पॉजिटिव ही पूछ रहे हैं, हम पूछ रहे हैं which of the following can be inferred, right? That is what it means. Okay. So I hope this is clear what you have to do every day. Any queries, any questions, please ask. This is meant for you to clarify your queries, these sessions. Some non-fiction suggestions from my end, right? So, man's search for meaning, it will help you with psychology. It will also help you a little bit with history, since it talks about concentration camps, it talks about Nazism, right? Sapiens and Homo Deus, they'll help you big time with anthropology and a bit with science. India After Gandhi, excellent book. It'll help you with history, India's history specifically, right? India's post-independence history, just after independence. Sophie's World is a mix of fiction and non-fiction. It will help you tremendously with philosophy. In case philosophy is an area that you dislike, okay, or you're not comfortable with, then Sophie's World is a very interesting way to cover it, right? So these are some book suggestions from my end that can help you to familiarize yourself with genres that you're not comfortable with. Okay, similarly, you can find other books that resonate with the other genres that you would like to read. Okay. And the power of habit, yes, this will help you with psychology, definitely. It shows how habit is a loop, okay, and how this loop can be made or broken. And some of the examples given in this book come from business and economics. So this should help. Okay. Then some fiction suggestions for you. Okay. So these are some fiction suggestions. And I've also written that students think that fiction does not really help in CAT. That reading fiction won't be of help because direct excerpts from fiction have not really appeared as RC passages, but it can still indirectly help you, one, to build a reading stamina, and two, in your awareness of various genres as well. Okay, so for instance, if I talk about this book, Americana or Beloved, they talk about racism, right? So it'll help you learn about the psychological aspects of racism, the modern aspects of racism, how let's say if I'm in Indian and I'm in India, I would never really think so much about my Indianness as I would think about it if, let's say, tomorrow I shift to US or UK, right? So all these aspects. So they also make you aware about various genres. It's not that reading fiction is of no use. Okay, so This is something that you have to do, and some unconventional tips and tricks, right? uh, that you may be looking for at this stage, because I'm sure all of you who are attending the session, you have started your preparation, right? You're looking for something more. So some untold tricks. This is simple, but a lot of students skip this. They think that reading online causes fatigue, so they read offline. They read from books offline. Don't do that, because your exam is an online exam, so you should build that stamina of reading online. Then, of course, a lot of teachers recommend that you should watch a web series in English that will help you to pick up English words by listening to them, which is an excellent way to pick up English, no doubt. But one way that you can improve your reading skills from is watch a web series in a language you do not know with subtitles, right? With subtitles. So you are forced to read when you do that. You're forced to read the subtitles in English, and that too, it happens fast, right? So that will force you to read a bit. But watch good series with that have good words. Then read some articles from the middle. Don't start them from the beginning. Start them from the middle and see how much you are able to comprehend. Are you able to comprehend them when you start from the middle? This will help you to understand that if, let's say, tomorrow an excerpt is given to me that comes from the middle of a longer article, okay, or if some parajumble is given to me, will I be able to anticipate इससे पहले क्या आएगा और इसके बाद में क्या आएगा? Will I be able to anticipate that? So this is a trick that will help you to improve both at RCs as well as specifically at parajumbles, right? No, no, don't do that, Kritika. Don't do that. In case you binge watch, then I don't recommend watching web series at all, right? Okay, good, Sonali. Um, like and follow relevant pages on Instagram and Facebook. You won't believe this. A lot of my reading happens on Instagram, right? I know that some of you might find this difficult to believe, but I followed pages like The Guardian. I followed the NYT on Insta, right? Because you know some of the just one or two of their articles are free, others are paid. So I read their captions, the bites that they give for various news items. That also helps, right? Then there are some other pages that I've followed based on my interest. So, for instance, there's this page called Newsworthy with AB that gives excellent India specific news, very analytical, incisive pieces at times. So, follow and like relevant pages on Instagram and Facebook so that when you go there, some reading happens there as well, and you are not just scrolling through reels, right? So, these are just, created these points keeping in mind your routine, your schedule. And if you can, trust me, this works wonders for your concentration. If concentration is an issue, practice mindfulness for about 10 minutes a day, right? Start with just 10 minutes and that will help. Practice meditation. There are so many videos regarding these that are available. Beginners meditation, mindfulness, right? So just watch some YouTube videos and start 10 minutes a day. It should help you definitely even with your reading concentration, right? So these are some things, some pieces of advice from my end. Some things that you should remember is that excelling in VARC is different from being good at English. A lot of us come from English medium schools. A lot of us have been, our parents immersed us in English at an early age. We come from that generation. However, excelling in VRC is not just about that. It's also about being good at logic, being good at reasoning, right? You should know how to eliminate options. It's about being good at solving, right? So don't just think that if you're good at English, oh VRC तो हो जाएगा, मेरी तो English अच्छी है, right? और या फिर अगर मेरी English अच्छी नहीं है, ओ मुझसे तो VRC होगा ही नहीं. Don't have those kind of psychological barriers. Another thing is that consistency matters, right? Particularly in my section. So when students start, sometimes they get 3 out of 4 questions wrong in RCs. And some students therefore give up after, let's say, a month. But if you persist, then after, let's say, some 16, 4 the 64, right? So some 16, let's say, sectional tests, some 64 RCs later, 15, 16 RCs later, you will, 50, 60 RCs later, you will realize that there's an inflection that happens. You start to understand कि एक option का क्या scope हो सकता है. What is the scope of a correct option, right? Till which point can it go? And after what point do we say, oh, this is beyond the scope of the RC? So that inflection happens after practicing at least 50, 60 RCs. So consistency matters. Don't give up midway, right? There is a learning curve to some question types. So specifically, I feel that for a main idea question, for some critical reasoning based questions, there is a learning curve. As you become better at comprehension, as you become better at reasoning, you automatically become better at these questions. And sometimes you may have to practice specifically for them. इनके लिए आपको specifically practice करना पड़ सकता है to understand the approach to these questions. So do keep that in mind. Okay, and lastly, practice within a time constraint makes a student perfect, right? So keep practicing, don't give up. How to manage my time? Okay. Okay. Especially for VRC. So, Samson, I believe that with your work, I'm assuming, let's say, if you commute, then you can take out the time of your commute for reading or for vocabulary, if that is possible, and go for one RC every day, right? On the weekends, devote more time. So, let's say just one RC on the weekdays, but on the weekends, when you sit on Saturday and Sunday, let's say you solved a sectional test of VARC. So a sectional test would imply that you solved 4 RCs plus 8 VA questions, right? So even if you practice your VA part weekly, let's say on Saturday and Sunday, you did 8 questions on Saturday, 8 questions on Sunday, even that will help you. Even that should suffice in my opinion. But ultimately, it also depends on how your accuracy is in the VA portion. Okay, so keep practicing every day, 1 RC, keep reading every day as much as you can manage so that you are in touch. In VRC, being in touch is very important. If today even I leave the practice for 6 months, I don't read anything for 6 months. After 6 months, when I start reading, I notice that there's a difference in my reading speed, in my reading comprehension. So it's about consistency. ठीक है, तो इतना मैनेज कर सकते हैं हम. एक RC, 20 minutes of let's say reading, 20 minutes of vocab अगर हम कर सकते हैं. एंड सैटरडे संडे में हम थोड़ा ज्यादा डिवोट करेंगे. वी कैन टेक सम सेक्शनल टेस्ट एंड वी कैन एनालाइज द मिस्टेक्स दैट वी हैव मेड इन द वीक. Analyze, okay, this question type I'm weak at, this genre I'm not comfortable with, and plan for the coming week accordingly, right? So this is how you can I think work and plan according to your schedule. That's amazing, Ajay. Great to know this, and all the best to you for the scores. Perfect. So these are our CAT 2022 toppers, right? You know that we have an online classroom program, and there we talk to you in detail about all these 4 areas. We have a lot of classes dedicated to all the 4 areas. We don't just prepare you for CAT, we prepare you for all the management entrance tests, right? So a pretty comprehensive program, even when it comes to vocabulary and grammar, right? And these are our CAT 22 toppers. We had a lot more conversions, right? And if you want to become a part of it, then these are the details, and the link is in the description box, right? To make these accessible for you, we also have scholarship programs, so you can get up to a 90% scholarship if you perform well in this scholarship test that is going to happen on the 14th at 11 a.m. To brush up your basics, see, students keep saying that they don't have practice material, so we came up with these section-wise quizzes that are available in our app. So download the app, go to the practice tab, and you'll find these quizzes there. We are running this series called 500 Most Expected CAT Questions. This will go on till CAT, right? Where we practice RCs and VA with you. So you can attend these so as to get an idea as to how to solve, how to eliminate, right? So keep attending, keep watching, and we are everywhere on social media. So this is one page that you can like and follow that will be relevant for you. We keep posting important information, important notifications by various colleges on our social media handles. I'm sure you've subscribed to our YouTube channel, and for more, on our app also we keep conducting informative sessions related to CAT. Okay, topic based sessions, strategy based sessions. In fact, today itself we have a workshop by Srinivas sir in the evening, right? So you can join us on the app for that workshop. You can ask your strategy related queries there. All right, this is it from my end. I hope the session helped. I'll see you in another session with another topic. Till then, bye bye.